So I'll count it off.
1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4.
1, 2, 3.
Just let's go.
1, 2, 3, go.
1, 2, 3, 4.
1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Hello, folks. Welcome back to the rehearsal room. Nick here.
Aaron's here.
We are going to once again get on the hot seat and debate slash not debate a popular, I think, topic.
Yeah, one that's eternal for sure.
Yeah, and it comes up a lot more. I think as music fans or fans of anything having to do with popular culture get older. But in this instance, because we're talking about music primarily, the topic being is rock dead.
Yes,
Right?
absolutely. And the other part is, as I said earlier, you and I have lived long enough to hear this debate several times.
Many times,
because
yes.
rock, as all music does, hits some lulls. The 80s come along, and suddenly these new wave bands, these bands that are using a lot more keyboards, the Duran Durans of the world, the Till Tuesdays, stuff like that.
Yep.
I mean, I remember watching it was like an interview with Till Tuesday. What's her name from it? She's a solo artist now, married to Sean Penn, I think. Anyway, she was talking, or she once was, and she was talking about, well, I just think people are tired of guitars, like it just got outplayed in the 60s, and nobody wants to hear that anymore. And you just think, well, that's interesting, because there's a little guy named by the name of Bruce Springsteen that's going to be coming up here in a couple of years. And if you look at a lot of that stuff, while there are great songs that came out of the 80s out of those kind of bands, Duran Duran's, the Culture Clubs, the Till Tuesdays, songs I still love to this day. But that is an era where rock still continued. It wasn't interrupted,
Right.
But we always have these saviors that come along. Prior to Nirvana was pop music, a lot of this boy band and stuff like that. And it was like, is rock dead? And then, the saviors, Nirvana. Well, never mind Mudhoney, Soundgarden, all these other bands that were doing it years before. But they hadn't hit the popularity
Even
part.
that part too, with the invent of Nirvana. They're basically being put up against other rock bands.
Yes,
right?
for sure.
Which
for
is
sure.
weird, because it's like, well, that other version of quote rock is one that we don't particularly want to promote as much.
Yeah.
But here's the one that we can definitely put out in front of way more people, right?
And younger.
Nirvana. Younger people.
And younger.
Right?
Always remember that. I think that's a huge factor.
100%, because we do need the energy and, let's face it, the money of the youth, right? These kids are growing up in a different world.
Yes.
They are feeling different things. They express their fanaticism in different ways.
Absolutely.
So,
I mean, this is what fuels early rock and roll in general. Remember, this is the boomer generation.
Yes.
World War II is over. They have way more kids. These kids have expendable income, and along comes rock and roll.
Right.
I can buy 7 inches. I can buy records.
45.
And my 45, so I can listen to my rock and roll, and I don't need my parents to tell me what to listen to.
Because they're old, out of touch.
Absolutely.
I know what's hip.
Right.
This is it.
Right.
This is rock.
I don't want your Glenn Miller anymore. I'm listening to Tutti Frutti.
Exactly. Right.
And those things have fueled it from then on. Whether it was when punk comes around, that's a youth movement.
Yep.
Clearly a pushback on, prog rock or rock that becomes album-oriented rock of the 70s and so on and so forth. And again, it's not to say those albums were bad, because they were rebelling against things. You and I both have Pink Floyd's and the King Crimsons, but punk was definitely a middle finger to those things. But it's a youth push, And then you have this, like I said, Nirvana. Then there's that lull where it seems like the Backstreet Boys and all those are back again. And then all of a sudden the Strokes and the White Stripes and Interpol, they show up. And, they saved us again. Rock and roll is saved. Now, we aren't at a lack of rock bands. Right? I mean, Foo Fighters is a wildly popular band. These guys sell out stadiums.
Here's one that I know it's because it's so recent. Number one on Billboard's recent charts is maybe not a through and through true rock band, but they are still considered rock. Sleep Token.
Yes.
Right? And it's maybe you and I don't really listen to the music, but that music isn't at this point being made for us.
No.
Right? It's being made for the kids that enjoy it, and there are a lot of kids that enjoy it.
Yes.
So I get it. I understand that like what was cool for me in the 90s and what I said, this is the pinnacle of musicianship and this is what I call fucking rock and blah, blah, blah. It doesn't apply. And I think a lot of people get stuck in the fact that it doesn't apply to them anymore. And they somehow try to argue against why, of course, they're not wrong. It's everyone else, right?
Well, there's definitely, and we were talking prior to this, those seem to go hand in hand a lot. Is the rock is dead is said by people who are really saying, I don't understand what's going on in music right now, which is fine.
It's leaving me behind.
Look, there's plenty of music that goes on right now that I don't understand either.
Yeah.
But it's not for me. They're not. They're Sleep Token doesn't give a shit about 47-year-old Aaron. And man, I hope he buys our record.
Exactly.
They have their core fans, you know, and even even then, as big as Sleep Token is, they are nowhere near where a lot of these non-rock bands are.
Right.
So in that regard, the statement is not untrue. Which is to say, yes, rock is not what it once was. Sure. It is not the dominant musical form.
Right.
But it will never truly die.
No, not
the
at
things
all.
it replaced as the dominant never died. Jazz didn't go anywhere.
Yeah. Big bands didn't go anywhere.
No, they were still making these music. And by the way, big band was replaced by bop and then hard bop. And people who didn't like that stuff went, wait, what the hell happened to my jazz?
And it's weird, too.
You know?
It's weird, too, that with like something like that, because now that he can't play music, there are people actually lamenting the fact that Brian Setzer of the Brian Setzer Orchestra has issues with like mobility in his hands. But I also don't remember half of the people saying like, oh man, poor him, going to these shows or complimenting the last Brian Setzer Orchestra album. Right?
Yeah.
They were all talking shit, but now that time has passed, we recognize it has its place in history.
Yes.
Right? Maybe we don't give it the full salute, like, oh, thank you for your service. But, all right, man, people dug it in its heyday, and people can still get into it now. I'll respect that.
Yeah.
You know, but some of these are the same people who say, well, rock is dead. The way I know rock to be, it's not there anymore. But
well,
that's
I think
also not true.
Yeah, no, and I think that's really it. It's not what I knew. It's like when I hear people, I know you and I hear this all the time. There's no good music anymore. Bullshit.
That's bullshit. Yeah, 100%.
What I hear from most people when they say that is, I don't know how to find music anymore.
Right. Yeah.
Because we were lucky enough to grow up in a time where, to some degree, the MTVs, the radios could offer us enough variety. We could find what we wanted and what we liked. Although you could also say, I think it's a Zappa quote about, you know, Americans have been fed so much crap when it comes to the radio. I don't think any of us know what we really like. And there may be something to that too.
Yeah, of course.
You know, but it is to say, I think the reason you and myself and people like us didn't fall off when radio fell off is because we were already living in worlds in which we had to go find it ourselves anyway.
Yeah.
So now it's people going like, I don't know how to find my music anymore that I like.
Which is fair.
Oh, absolutely,
Right.
because the way the thing has changed.
Yeah.
But what's interesting is many of those people I go, well, tell me what you like. And I go, I bet you I can make you a list of 5 artists you've never heard of that I bet you totally dig. And they're out right now.
Yep.
You know,
100%.
And I get it. The whole way the system has changed in a way that, and again, taking the time to go find it does take time. It takes a commitment.
Sure.
It was much easier to turn on the radio and go, oh, I like that. Cool.
Right.
That's my favorite song now. You know, I get that.
But speaking of that commitment,
Please.
You know, when the ease of the internet wasn't around to help us the way it is now, our commitment was having to go look not just for the band, discovering the band, and then trying to gauge whether it was a cool band or not by how your friends reacted to it, right?
Right.
But then, because I know this to be true of me and maybe for yourself, we didn't have the $20-$25 every single time we found a new band.
No.
So we had to be selective.
Very.
Right? We had to go out and like, I'm gonna trust myself on this purchase.
Right.
So, and then we don't just get to take it home and hear the one song we like.
Right.
Now we have the entirety of the album.
I agree.
Right. Whereas now,
Yeah.
that type of dedication can go by a lot quicker. Like, new band, I'll listen to the one song.
Yeah.
Right?
Dude, I can blow through 5 bands in 10 minutes.
Exactly.
If it's
right?
not catching me in the first couple songs, I'm moving on to the next.
No,
Perfectly fine. I've lost
love,
nothing.
What is it? No love, no foul? Or
Yeah,
no
right,
harm, no
yeah,
foul.
yeah.
Right?
Absolutely.
Like,
yeah.
if-
No harm, no foul.
No harm, no
who
foul.
cares?
Yeah.
Who cares?
And there's different venues to listen to music, so any one of them
Yeah.
will still matter to the band because like, oh, somebody checked out our music
Absolutely.
today, blah blah blah. But yeah, it's a lot. I would say it's a lot easier, but I do understand that for a lot of people who might be even scared to venture out of what they know, what they've curated for so long. All right, I get it. It's a little imposing because
It can be. I mean, I always say the beauty of now is anyone can make a record.
Yes.
The bad part now is anyone makes a record.
Yeah.
So you will wade through a ton of knee deep in shit.
Yes.
Till you find that diamond. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah.
But as we always say, the reward on that is so nice.
Yes.
When you find that next band, like that's a wonderful feeling.
Oh,
especially
for sure.
when you've waded through so much shit.
Yeah.
And, another thing to remind everybody too is like, remember, it's not to say that there was less variety back in those days. There was more, or maybe even equal to some degree.
Yeah, I would say
But
so.
a lot of what you liked or were presented with did have money that backed it to make sure that you heard it,
That you
that
knew
it
about
got
it.
the radio airplay,
Right.
its video was on MTV, so on and so forth.
Yeah.
I'm not saying you were force fed, and I'm not saying no. I don't
No, but
believe
it does
that
get
people
helped along,
Oh, for sure.
you know?
Like if for nothing more, exposure.
Ex-
I don't think
yes.
anybody likes something they don't like just because everybody else likes it, but I definitely think exposure can help.
I mean,
if
there-
you're exposed to something that you didn't know existed and now you like it, the exposure is what did it.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, I mean, and obviously the merit of them being great musicians and being a good song all matter.
All matter.
But ultimately, also there is an industry in
Yes.
music industry.
If I
right?
can't get this in front of your ears and eyes, what difference does it make how
Yes.
great it is
Right.
if I'm looking to sell a lot of records?
And-
it still matters that the art is good, whether everybody hears it or not.
and that's been done since the creation of these types of
Absolutely.
charts.
Absolutely.
right?
I mean, payola scandals in
Yes.
the 50s and 60s, I mean, literally destroyed careers,
Careers.
of DJs and stuff like that because of,
yeah.
I mean, these people were literally handed wads of cash and suddenly they loved a record that they were playing five times a day.
Yeah, right. And
you know?
somehow this is also the same music industry that people lament isn't there anymore.
Yeah.
Because it's changed. Like, let's be serious, folks. Right? Like, let's be we can't cast these wide-reaching
Right.
nets with these terms of like is rock dead because of what we've been saying.
Sure.
It's just not as prominent.
Right.
And other things that maybe get inspired by what the originators of rock and its many forms afterwards, because I was telling Aaron earlier also, I think this type of debate also goes into several other, conversations that can be had where not just the is rock dead, is rock and roll dead, but is like the rock star
Yeah.
not a thing anymore, right?
Right.
And I think it's all connected.
Yes.
Because again, as we've been saying, it just changes form.
Yeah.
Right? It just changes form, and whether you get it or not, whether you feel it's for you or not,
Right.
doesn't matter anymore.
No, it really doesn't. And the rock star, as you said, we were talking about this a little bit earlier, is just that's sometimes what I like. One of the people who's been very vocal about this, shocker, he's usually such a dormouse, but or such a church mouse, Gene Simmons.
Oh, yeah.
very much. Oh, rock is dead. There's no more rock stars, and it's like you're wrong, Gene.
Yeah.
Rock stars have just changed. If you don't think Kendrick Lamar or Drake are fucking rock stars, if you
Yeah.
don't think Taylor Swift is a rock star,
Right, yeah.
if you don't think fucking Beyonce is a rock star,
Yeah.
your head's way up your ass, Gene.
Totally.
Which says a lot because I'm
Totally.
assuming that's usually where it is.
Yeah.
But it's just to say, I know they're not the rock star, why, Gene, because they're not banging 50 chicks a night. You know what I
Yes.
mean? Like, I don't care. They embody everything a rock star is. These people put on
Everything.
huge stadium shows with pyrotechnics through the whole thing.
The lush
massive
lifestyles,
Yes!
right? Everything, the
They
abundance.
name your kid Blue Ivy, for fuck's sake. What's more rock star than that? I mean, come on.
Exactly,
you know?
right? Yeah,
It's like, like I said, I mean, they're rock stars in every sense of the word.
Yeah, yeah.
And yet, because they don't play what he considers to be rock, then they're not rock
They're
stars.
not rock stars, right?
Well, maybe that's true, but I don't know. Glenn Miller probably wasn't a big fan of fucking Kiss. You know what I mean?
100%,
And probably
yeah.
thought they were heathenists for what they did. You know what I mean? So again, all these things are just music changes, the times change.
Yeah.
I'm not saying you have to change with it. I'm not saying you have to like the music that's out right now. You
course.
don't at all. You know, I remember hearing many people have said it, I'm sure, but I remember hearing like Trent Reznor saying, your parents should hate your fucking music.
Yeah,
You
I
know,
remember
in
that.
many ways, they
Yeah.
should fucking hate your music. It's not for them, you know? And the idea that somehow 50 years on to be mad that rock isn't the dominant force anymore is also like, I get it. It's something, it's an interesting topic. It's something to talk about. Oh, did you notice the change in music?
Of course.
But to lament it in a way like, oh my God, I mean, in 20 years, who'll sell out the Forum?
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't care.
Well, because also chances are you're not going either way.
Well,
right?
Right.
Because you already complain about the quality and sound of what rock is now.
Right.
You're not going to fucking go.
Well, no, they will when it's 20 years and it's YouTube and they're 75 years old and they're playing the same 5 fucking
legacy
songs they
acts.
like. Exactly.
Yeah. Well, and this is a argument that gets made by, I don't know if this is the actual term for them, but they have been referred to as purists, traditionalists, basically the back in my day crowd, right? And it's like, I get it.
Yeah, I don't.
When I was coming up, I discovered a lot of bands that were just coming out at that time.
Sure.
And I felt, this is the best it's going to ever get.
Oh.
But then I got older, and I actually discovered other music that I then thought, this is the best it's ever gonna get.
Right.
And it's and at one point I would put myself in the mindset of the traditionalists, where it was like, well, this is it. Like, this
For
this
sure.
can't-
There have
this
been
has
times
to
in my
go
life where I
forever.
feel like, is that it? Am I
Yeah.
done with metal?
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
is there nobody's making anything I care about or want to listen to?
Yep.
And then somebody comes along, hits me over the head, and goes, "Hey, dummy, come on." Then I go, "Oh,
like
there
there's
it is."
this other like all these other genres that you
Yes.
just purposefully ignored.
Yes,
But now you get to explore them, and you're like,
Absolutely.
oh wow, it keeps going, and it's
Yeah.
infinite. It
Yes.
is fucking infinite because, like Aaron said, everyone's making an album, and whether that's a good thing or bad thing, debatable,
Sure.
arguable. But the one of the benefits is that we have that much more music to lose ourselves in.
Oh,
to discover.
yes.
To forget about these honestly petty fucking arguments about is rock dead.
Well, because what do you lose from it? I remember. I mean, I've heard these. Again, this has been going on for years. Okay,
Yeah.
who's the band that'll sell out the Forum? I don't know. How does that affect you in any way?
Right.
I don't make money from the Forum.
Yeah.
I don't. By the way, if you're talking about the live experience, I am with you. We both can sit here and talk about what the live experience of hearing a
Sure.
band
Yeah.
play
Yeah.
in any form, whether hip hop. You and I have seen many different acts that
Yes.
play many different styles of music. There is nothing that will ever replace the live. And most of that has as much to do with the band as it does to be in a group thought.
Oh,
where
yeah,
we
of
are
course.
all enjoying this one thing. I
It's
agree.
a joint experience.
The joint experience, absolutely. Is it to say that it is somehow better because I'm in the Forum as opposed to I'm at the 1720 Club?
Right.
I don't know that it is.
The venue itself, it matters because sometimes you do want to see the little bands that you not help discover, but that like you found along the way make it to a level where other people get to enjoy them.
Absolutely.
But
Success,
ultimately,
of course.
right?
Yes.
Ultimately, when you go see that band that you fucking love,
Right.
and you know that there's a group of people that love it as much as you, and you're all in the same place at the same time listening to that music,
Right.
and it just hits everybody in the same way,
Right.
That experience.
I don't care if I'm in a club with 50 people or I'm at the Forum.
Right.
I'm still feeling the same thing.
Yes, 100%. Yes.
So this idea that somehow something will be lacking because it doesn't play the Greek or the Forum
Right.
or the
Right.
Hollywood Palladium, like,
Yeah.
Or the Hollywood Bowl, like what?
Yeah.
I don't understand that. Now again, if that's all you've ever done is seen bands in huge stadiums every single time,
Yeah.
I get it.
Sure.
I mean, look, one of the very first shows I ever went to was Pantera, Sepultura, and Prong at fucking. You and I both were at the
We
show.
were- surprisingly,
Glen Helen.
we didn't run into
did
each
not run
other
into each
that
other.
day, yeah.
Glen Helen. I mean, talk about a huge fucking area. This is massive. They put Ozfests on there.
Yeah.
Which was another one of the shows I went to right after. These were massive. I loved every bit of it.
Yeah.
But I've also seen some of these same bands that were there in smaller venues.
Yeah.
They lost nothing.
Nothing. Yeah.
Nothing at all.
That was the first time I saw Prong in a gigantic venue like that.
Right.
The last time I saw Prong was at the Whiskey.
Right on.
The Roxy or the Troubadour, one of those.
Okay.
Anyways,
Yeah. Well,
point being,
either
it's
way.
not Glen Helen,
No, it is
right?
not even close.
It goes from 20,000,
Right.
whatever,
Right.
to a couple hundred.
Yeah.
Right. And I'm not the biggest Prong fan.
No.
But I was like, fucker still got it.
Yeah.
Still fucking got it.
Yes.
That was a great show. It was heavy. You know, I liked them as much as I did the first time around, and I lost nothing, right?
Yeah, and I guess that argument, like I said, in that is exactly that. It's like, I wonder, have these people who say that, have you gone to a $20 show?
Yeah, yeah.
When was
Take
the
a
last time you
chance.
did that? Take a chance.
Take a chance.
I promise you'll find something. Maybe it won't ever play the forum. Who cares?
Right.
Why does that? Why do
Like, do you need to have more of a fan base for you to know it's good?
Yeah, right. Like for us, we are lucky enough. We both experienced pretty much at the same time. Chelsea Wolfe.
Oh, yes.
Right?
Yeah.
That's a prime example of a local artist that you and I have been able to watch rise up.
Yeah.
We saw her opening for Wolves in the Throne Room.
Yep.
The opening band. Suddenly she's got a song on Game of Thrones.
Game of Thrones. She's
Now
opening for Tool.
Yes.
Right.
Huge a theater tour she's doing now. Now she's touring with Wardruna.
Yeah, we're doing it. Exactly.
I mean,
yes.
we have seen her right. I'm not lamenting anything. Good for her because she's made it on her own merits. She's
Yes.
done it her way. Good for her. She deserves every bit of that.
100%, yes.
But at the same time, whether I see her at a club or I see her at a theater or with Wardruna at a giant theater, great. As long as I get to see her,
yep.
I lose nothing. You know, and I think that's a weird argument to make. Like, where are the big rock bands? Why do they need to be big? Why does rock need to be in the top 10 for you to feel like it's because the other part of that argument to me is, I have no doubt there are kids in their room right now learning to play guitar.
Of course.
Learning to play the bass,
Yes.
learning to play drums.
Yes.
There's no doubt in my mind. There were even some statistics I saw that in certain parts of the country, classic rock radio is still the number one listened to by kids between the ages of like 16 to 25.
That's awesome.
And we've always known these kids who all of a sudden discover Zeppelin, discover Metallica, discover The Doors, right?
Yep.
That's always going to happen, in my opinion.
I mean, one of the bands that's at this point evergreen is the fact that Nirvana still hits as much as it used to.
Nirvana is essentially classic rock now.
It is. Right. And, you know, when you look at the young, well, I can't, but like when the younger kids tell me like, oh, have you heard this Nirvana song? Or it gets repopularized by way of a Batman movie, right?
Yes.
And now younger ears listen to it and it's like, oh, they had more stuff. And it's rock and roll like the other stuff that these older fuddy-duddies listen to as well. But we can enjoy it now, and we can start learning it. Like, come on, folks.
There's kids in my work. I see them. They're young. They're in their 20s. There's kids come in with their Guns N' Roses shirts.
Nice.
They're Nirvana shirts. You know what I mean? And it's like, okay. Yeah, that's not. I mean, I told the story. When Dan was here, the guy I work with right next to, he comes to me and he's like, "You ever heard of this band called Acid Bath?" And I'm like,
"Oh yeah."
Turns out his daughter, who's like, I don't know, maybe 11, 12, she's into Acid Bath and wants to go see him. He's gonna take her.
That's cool because that band already is so niche.
Oh yeah,
even within heavy music.
Absolutely, it is. And yet, okay. No, there was no. It's not like Beyonce wore an acid bath shirt, and that's why she knows. Right. Somehow this kid figured it out. But this kid's also, she likes to skateboard. She likes to go to live shows. Okay, so she's in an environment that does foster that. How many kids got into punk simply because they were skateboarders?
Right.
It wasn't, it didn't have to be one or the other. It was, you know what I mean? It's just, I skateboarded. Everybody I skateboarded with listened to punk. That's how I got into punk.
Yep.
So there's, how many kids do we, have you heard the, where did you first, this is something I'm seeing recently, and it's because of my age. Where did you start getting into heavy metal or hard rock? Well, I played a lot of Madden football.
Oh, yeah.
Or I played Tony Hawk's Pro Skater.
Yes.
And that is an awesome thing to think about. Wow. They were introduced to Entombed because they were on Tony Hawk's Pro Skater.
Yeah.
8 albums into their career, know? Awesome, great. I don't care how it happens, know?
See, and that, again, what you were saying earlier about youth culture, the youth moving.
That's it.
What's popular, right?
That's it.
Yes, because they're the ones who will discover the bands and go see them. And, when they are able to, they'll financially support the bands.
Absolutely.
Right? And if there's anything that we can legitimately point at and say, well, here's a concrete fact, is that young people will go experience it, and the old people that complain don't.
At this point, they don't.
When we're and I'm gonna include myself in this, when we're lamenting the fact that like, oh, there's no good metal bands or good rock bands.
Sure.
Well, what you're actually saying is you're not trying.
Or
right?
I've
Because
definitely
these
stopped
kids-
looking.
You stopped looking, yeah. Like you stopped something.
Yeah.
right? And what these kids are saying by being at these shows, whether it's the older band, the legacy bands, or newer stuff, is, well, we're still trying.
Yeah.
And I'm having fun. I'll fucking see you later.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
And again, music can change. It can also be maybe you have looked.
Yeah.
It doesn't appeal to you. Fine. That's okay too. I love hip hop.
Sure.
There's a lot of new hip hop that doesn't do anything
right,
for me.
Right. Yeah.
But hip hop has also changed.
Of course.
You know?
Oh, yeah.
Again, not
Yeah.
to change it into a different subject, but like, you know, when people would do the Drake and Kendrick, oh, they're going to, well, that just felt like a weird battle because one is in my opinion, and I think most people's opinion, is a pop singer,
Right.
a pop star,
Sure.
and the other one is a rapper.
Yeah.
It was never a fair fight to begin with, as far as I was concerned. You know what I mean? One's very much an artist in the sense of trying to create. Not that he doesn't want popular songs, not that Kendrick doesn't want to make money, but he is which, by the way, despite all his artistic and despite his popularity, still doesn't reach the top 10.
Right. Yeah.
In overall streamed artists, overall sales artists, Drake beats him 1 billion times over.
Yeah.
You know, because Drake's stuff is more pop.
Sure.
So even within the genre that has become the predominant genre, even in there you have discrepancies.
Yes. Yeah.
You know, and that goes back to even early days of hip hop. You had the more popular hip hop groups, and then they had like what they would, you know, the shiny suit era of P. Diddy and Mace and all that
Yeah.
bullshit that I couldn't stand. But at the time, you also had what they would call the backpack rappers.
Yes.
Talib
Yeah,
Kweli and
yeah,
Mos Def, where they were more of the MC. They were trying to say something. It was socially conscious and all that other
Yes,
stuff.
and
The-
more
you know,
message.
Absolutely.
within
And
the-
I didn't have a shiny suit.
Right.
I looked like I walked in off the street.
Yeah.
You know, and that's cool too. There's nothing wrong with that. You know what I mean? And by the way, there's enough room in the world for both.
Oh yeah.
You know, one of the things that made Biggie so popular wasn't just his ability to rap, but he teamed up with a producer who could write poppy songs that he would rap dirty shit over. Essentially, gangster lyrics over pop songs.
And see
that was the brilliance of why those things sold the way they did.
And,
you know?
But see, that also speaks to the innovativeness of
Absol-
musicians.
Yes.
Because I think even musicians at some point, they're like, we have to be better than our last output.
Yes,
I think
you're trying to. I would imagine every artist.
I,
right?
I would imagine that, but I can't. You know, since
Sure.
right? Because there's also people that stick to the one style of music,
Yeah.
and never stray, and that's good. That's great.
You need those bass.
Yeah,
so you,
of course.
So
Yeah.
you know who's on the left and the right. You always need that.
Yeah, but me particularly, and I think you do as well. You admire the musicians who say like, "Well, let me try some of that because that's also worked for them."
Yes.
and I enjoy it. I'm not gonna force it, but maybe I try that with what I write. You know, and you only get something better, right?
Yes.
You get something better than what you had the previous thing, which was nothing.
I think that is a big reason why I find more music now is more exciting in many ways, is because so many of the kids who are making it now and are a little younger than we were, or we are, didn't have the, whether self-imposed or actual limitations put on them the way we did.
Right, yeah.
There wasn't division. Music is music now to kids.
Sure.
It's not to say they don't understand genre. It's just to say music is music.
It's just music. It's
Whatever
what I'm
YouTube
taking
plays the
in.
next thing, whatever Spotify plays the next
Yeah,
thing, doesn't
yeah.
matter to them. Where we would be like, where's my metal? Where's my box?
Right,
Where's my
exactly.
hip hop box?
Here,
Where's
let
my
me put up the dividers because
Absolutely.
I need to just stick to the one thing that I recognize.
And by the way, because finding it or access to it wasn't as easy either, you could get
course.
lost in certain genres and not be able to explore outwards. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
And you know, being in certain cultures, cliques, so on and so forth.
Yep.
You know, and with radio suddenly becoming much more rigid in what it played, also those kind of things. And then when corporations came in and started owning more and more radio stations, and they got rid of the idea that a DJ could just play whatever he felt like. That, you know, then it just became, you know. Anyway, that's a different discussion altogether. But but you understand what I'm saying. So
Yes,
it's like,
of course.
I think that's the beauty of what I think music is going on here, and maybe why some of the older people are so disconnected. It's taking such different genres and mixing them in ways that these guys just don't get, because maybe they weren't exposed to some of those genres as they were going.
which is
you know.
fair.
Yeah.
But the thing is, and again, you don't have to like it. Nobody's forcing you, right? Nobody's
absolutely.
twisting your arm.
No.
But give it a shot.
Yes.
Because the only big real benefit that can happen is you walk away and you're like, yeah, that was pretty cool actually.
Yeah.
Like
right.
I wonder how they pulled that off
Yes.
live. So now that you're gonna go experience the show, you're like, oh, all right, fuck, that is different. That is new, right?
Yeah. I mean, worst case scenarios, you just go, well, that's not for me.
Exactly.
Who cares? It doesn't affect. Like
I
never.
can commit a couple of minutes to a song I've never heard.
Yes.
And it's not gonna hurt my life in any way.
No.
In fact, now I'll be able to say, well, that one performer, I don't like him.
Yeah.
You know, and that's it.
Yes.
You don't have to shit talk. You don't have to keep digging the hole. Just say, yeah, I don't like him. Not for me.
Are
And
these?
move on?
Do these people also food? I tell you, man, there's just no new foods.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
I've tried them all.
Yeah.
I don't know. There's no more new foods.
Yeah.
Like what?
Yeah.
Like you could try new things all the time. You go to different restaurants
And then
try
people
new
mix
recipes.
it. People have fusion fucking
Dude,
foods.
I mean, look, I know, and again, not to pull in other things, but like the mission of this country was to always, at least was said to be melting pot.
Melting
well, you
pot.
see this certainly in our foods. I don't know how many great restaurants are like they put a Vietnamese twist on breakfast.
Yes,
they put it like it's the one thing we got is the food.
Yeah, right.
Well, that we're all open to, in that
I mean,
in that way.
much to my chagrin, there is a style of food called Tex-Mex.
Well, yes,
Which,
but even
whatever.
then, it's like because why? Because they're taking from these two things and they're
Yes,
putting it together.
exactly,
That's
yes.
the beauty of it. Why isn't that beautiful when it's also music?
Right,
And yes,
right.
sometimes it will take away.
Of
There
course,
are
of
look,
course.
again, I have said this for years. I think the people of Mexico have a class action lawsuit against Taco Bell. How dare they call that Mexican food? Because we know what real Mexican food tastes like.
Right,
but
right,
at the same time, it is a different version of Mexican food. Okay,
of course.
you may not like it, but unlike Taco Bell, listening to a band you don't like won't give you the shits. So who cares? Listen
maybe
to
it will, yeah.
It's possible. They may hit a note.
Depending on what note they hit, yeah.
It's just to say, if you don't like it, you don't like it. That's okay. That doesn't mean it's lesser than. It doesn't mean something's lacking. And I promise you, it comes in waves. That giant wave of rock may not come back around again. As big as the Strokes and the White Stripes and the Yeah Yeah Yeahs and all that little like late 90s, early 2000 rock that everybody thought was saving us, if you really look at it, it was very quick. And there were also other bands that were part, like the Hives.
Yes, I remember that.
They had the one hit, and now nobody knows. Yeah. No, by the way, still touring.
Yeah.
Still make records.
Yes, yeah.
Does anybody remember them? Oh, yeah, I remember that one song.
I mean,
Oh,
unless
but
you're tapped into that.
there you go.
Right? Yeah.
But it's to say, we thought, oh, they're going to save us.
Huh? Yeah.
And it's like, well, for a little bit. And then that wave went away, too.
Well, here's the thing,
You know?
too, and I think it's a pitfall.
And that wave was way less than Nirvana's. And
Of
it was way
course.
less than Punk's. And it was way less than early rock and roll. You know, and it may just be less forever.
Here's
you know?
another pitfall that I think a
Please.
lot of these traditionalists and purists fall into is that when a new band comes out, and even if it is derivative of something old, which at this point a lot of stuff is going to be.
It's going to be.
It's
There's only so many notes.
There's only so many notes. There's only so many times this can be influenced by
Yes.
that, right?
Yes.
So, and I can't believe I'm going to make this argument, but you get the Greta Van Fleets, right?
Yes.
For all intents and purposes,
Yes.
a rock band.
Yeah.
Right?
Absolutely.
But people decide to poo-poo on their parade just because it's ripping off Led Zeppelin.
Very much so.
And Led Zeppelin is, for many out there,
Yes.
the holy of the holy.
They
right?
are, right? Yeah.
So, right?
They may even have a house of
Yeah,
the
exactly.
holy.
Like somehow weird how it works out that way, right? But like they sound too much like Zeppelin,
Yes.
therefore they suck.
Yes.
Okay, but is the music good? And
Right.
maybe you don't like it because
Right.
it's derivative.
Right.
But there are plenty of fucking people that did.
And for the
right?
younger kids who didn't get to grow up with their Zeppelin, this is
Right.
their Zeppelin.
And maybe they don't fully like Zeppelin, but they like what the ballpark it's in.
Right.
But Greta Van Fleet packaged it in a way that's more
Dude,
accessible.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Like, okay, and again, I can't believe
No,
let
no.
the kids have their fucking say.
It is, right? Like, look, it's not it's not made for us anymore.
Right.
It just
Yeah,
isn't.
exactly. Yeah.
The same parents who lamented Elvis Presley, their kids went on to lament punk rock to their kids.
Oh, definitely.
It's like,
why does it have to be so noisy?
Right,
Yeah, yeah.
right. Congratulations, you turned into your parents. You went to
100%.
Woodstock and now you're mad because your kids listen to Sex Pistols. What the fuck
Yeah,
is wrong with you?
yeah, yeah.
I thought that, as I like to say to these old boomers a lot of times, I thought you were supposed to die before you got old.
Yeah, yep. I mean, ultimately,
You
that's
know,
what we expected.
and I don't, I mean that in the metaphor in
And the
which
metaphor,
the Who
of
wrote
course,
it.
yeah.
Right?
Aaron does not want to
No, I-
unalive anybody.
I'm not looking to eliminate boomers. I'm just simply saying,
Yeah.
like that. To me, that, for a band like the who very early, is there an owl in here? Very early influential band, and whether it was rock, whether it was punk, that line is very punk rock. I hope I die before I get old. And what he means by that is, I don't want to become my parents. I don't want to be uncool anymore. And to see them, like, they literally didn't they just get rid of their drummer because he's
playing
too loud?
Jesus
Jesus Christ, guys.
Like, hey, drummer, can you turn it down?
Like, okay, the Who is no longer a rock band. But it's just to say, like, and look, and maybe it's inevitable for all of us. There may come a day where I'm the same. There are certainly songs that my kids have played that I go, not really my thing. But early on for my children, what I tried to do was expose them to music outside of whatever was on the radio. I was never going to be able to keep them from that. They had friends at school. There's radios. They were always going to hear those things. All I wanted my kids to understand was there's more than just what the radio's offering you. Whatever you like, I don't give a shit. People will be like, oh, that's so cool. Your kids are going to be metalheads. And I'm always like, nah, I don't care what they become. I don't care if they're huge EDM fans. Go right ahead. It doesn't matter to me. You know what I mean? Speaking of which, there's an interesting one too. Wasn't disco supposed to kill rock and roll to some degree?
Right? Like, there was so much hatred put on disco.
Well,
which
there's a lot of reason to it, but yes. Also, please.
Yeah, I was just gonna say I am a big fan of disco. So like, I always found even that conversation like dumb, because it's like, well, disco in many ways is going to help rock get pushed up to the forefront. Because of how much attention you're putting on hating that one thing that you're highlighting yourself. Basically the whole, like, I don't have to dim the other candle to make mine shine brighter.
You shouldn't have to.
You shouldn't have to, but it happened.
Yes.
Right? And it was very public. It was very out there.
And we know there's also some underlying tones, not for everybody that disliked it. Because I mean, you can find, I remember it's on that documentary you and I saw when we were kids. There's like a whole thing where it's like disco comes in. It's like the Heartbreakers. They're beating on a drum machine because it's not music. It's a drum machine. And it's like, well, we all know Tom Petty probably now would go, it was kind of stupid. You know what I mean? But we got caught up in the moment. It was like, crap, this digital music, this overproduced shit is taking away from our rock and roll. But it never did. They were all selling at the same time. They were all doing well.
Well, it's because they look at things in a linear fashion.
Yes.
Right? They can only see what's ahead of them, blinders, as it were, to the sides. This is the only thing that matters to me, right? I can't even fathom the fact that somebody else is making music. It's being called music, and now it's more popular than mine.
Yeah, that too. Right? Yes, especially stuff I don't understand.
I don't understand. I mean, and and let's be real. In a lot of examples like that, there is some racial biasness.
We know this with disco for sure. Yes, racial and sexuality. Those things were an underlying current, not for all, there was an underlying current in there.
But I also
the backlash towards that for sure.
I do think that the people that keep those arguments alive, you're it's basically one of those, what you permit, you promote, where it's like, I get it, you're a rock and roll dude, a metal guy, whatever, but if you're going to have this argument that hasn't been around since the 70s, basically, you're the ignorant one. It's not their fault.
And especially the idea that it sucks. Look, if it's not for you, it's not for you. If you don't like dance music, that's fine. I'm not a dancer either. But here's the other side. I'm sorry. There's some damn good records that were made in the disco era. If you just from a production standpoint, how they sound. Gloria Gaynor has an amazing voice. I can't think of her name now. She's the queen of disco.
Donna Summer?
Donna Summer. Like, fuck you. Donna Summer's got a fucking amazing voice, and there's some great songs. And again, I'm not the world's biggest Bee Gees guy in any way, shape, or form.
Oh, no.
But those guys can sing their asses off, and those are some really well-made records. I don't care what those. I mean, if you're just looking from a production standpoint, those are clean, crisp. They sound wonderful, and those guys have written massive hits for a lot of people. Now, that may not mean anything to you. I don't care about hit songs. Okay, I'm not saying you have to. I'm just saying, like, you can't say there wasn't talent there.
Right. But also, even saying like that they weren't hit songs, subjective. Because,
absolutely.
Because of how linear you're looking at things, right? And like,
no, what I mean is, like, what I'm saying is people will promote, but look, they wrote hits, and some people go, I don't care if they had hits or not. That doesn't make them a great artist.
Oh, for
which
sure.
I would agree with, but it's still to say, like, that may not be the truth all the way for everybody, but they kept writing hits for a very, very long time. That takes talent. The Bee Gees, I mean, that's another part where, again, we see so many people when they hit the top, again, not to divert, but it's just to say, there are many people who think the Bee Gees are a disco band only that put out that one record of Staying Alive. And it's like, This is a band that was around in the 60s that had a massive career
Yes.
long before this happened, and this was just another rebirth in their career.
Yeah.
You know,
They saw the tides changing.
Yes.
And they said, we're like, let's try something else.
Let's try
and
something
see.
right, and it wasn't something that they were necessarily into right away.
Right,
Yes,
right.
and again, the times change. People fear change. It's just as humans, we hate this. When something's different, when something comes along and I don't understand it, it's so much easier to shit on it than it is to give 2 seconds to it to try to understand it
right.
or get it.
Yep,
The other part of that is, to me, is also, what do you lose by just saying it's not for me or I don't get it? It doesn't make you a loser or lame. Look, I love hip hop.
Yeah.
I can't pretend as a white suburban kid that when I listen to Mobb Deep and Nas, I go, yeah, bro, I know exactly what you're talking about, homie. Of course I don't.
Of course. Yeah.
It's not my experience in any way, shape, or form.
But the impact.
I hear it. I understand. I'm understanding it through their eyes. I love the music. I love their style. I love the way they. But I can also sit back and still say, yeah, I don't really know what that word means because I'm not in that lingo. I don't know.
The context doesn't necessarily apply to me, but I can still enjoy the overall.
I don't play an instrument. I don't know how to play
yeah.
guitar or drum. So am I losing out on some? I think it's in some ways maybe I don't understand why that guitar lick is as amazing as other guitar players made, but I still feel it. I don't know how Eruption is played, but I understand. My God, that's amazing from Eddie Van Halen.
Yeah.
I'll never be able to play it, but that doesn't mean I can't understand the. So, again, if you don't like it, that's perfectly fine. And I always remember, youth bands are not making music for old people.
For old people, yeah.
They never have. They've never tried, not once.
Yeah.
They're always making it for youth culture and promoted to youth culture. That's all it's about.
Yeah,
And
I said this in one of our earlier episodes where I said music ultimately becomes the attempt to recapture that nostalgic experience, right? Because you go see the band that really hit you, maybe the first couple times you discovered them, you keep going to see them because you want to recapture that magic. Right?
Definitely.
That's why you feel so inclined as to make criticisms on their later output. Like, that was a good album, but maybe half of those songs could have been skipped, right?
Sure.
But and to a certain degree, it's also the type of like parasocial relationship we start having with bands,
especially with art, because
it's
of
so
how it affects
personal.
us. It is. It is. And again, it is a thin line. I may love your band, I may love your music, but I don't know you. Let's not get carried away here.
Right.
I don't, I may want to wear your skin as a suit, but that doesn't make it okay because I love your albums.
Yeah.
But it is to say, art affects us in such a way that yes, it does feel personal, and I think especially as you get into. I heard somebody say this one time, and I always thought that was an interesting point. I don't know if it always applies, but I think it does for the most part. Is to say, I think one of the things that separates, if you will, underground music from pop music is. Yeah. Pop music is written for a majority.
Okay. Yeah.
Underground music can be written for a minority, and I don't mean that in skin color. And what I mean is, I can be more specific in my lyricism and in my scope of music, even if it only appeals to 50 people. Yeah. It will impact those 50 people as hard as a pop song will impact 1 million people.
Of course, yes.
You know what I mean? But it won't appeal to as many people.
I get that.
And I think that there's nothing wrong with that. I think that's the beauty of music in a lot of ways. Yeah, you know what I mean? That you can go both ways. There are plenty of pop songs that I love, that I think are great, fun songs that I listen to. But, they may never impact me the way something that maybe you, me, and 50 other people know. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it is just to say, is like, I guess in the end, is rock dead? Rock as we know it, or once knew it? Yeah, you could say that to a degree. If we are calling rock music, guitar, bass, drum, singer, it is not as popular as it once was. If you want to call that dead, that's fine. But again, Foo Fighters aren't hurting for money.
Yeah.
Nickelback sure shit ain't hurting for money. You know what I mean?
Well, I mean,
these bands are touring and they're making money doing it. And God knows, you and I are seeing touring bands all the time.
All the time, yeah.
All the time. That are guitar-based rock bands.
To the effect of what you were saying, like, is rock dead? I would say no. It's not as prominent as it might have been, right? But is rock and roll all like that? No, like that's never been a thing.
No,
because just playing in the style of music that
Yes.
my band plays.
Yes.
I often look at what gets charted, and even that to use that in this type of music is kind of silly.
Yes.
But I look at what's popular.
Yeah.
Or what gets released in any given week.
Right.
Hundreds
Yeah.
of albums
yes.
a week.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Right? Everyone around the world is releasing music
Yeah.
now.
Oh, yes.
So for me to say, well, there's no more guitar-oriented
Right.
rock or metal.
Right.
I'd be lying. I'm lying.
Oh.
I'm lying straight through my teeth.
Of course.
Right?
And I think even deep down, those who say rock is dead, they do know that. They
Yeah,
know
yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah.
You know? Again, the argument isn't about is rock dead for these people.
No, it's
It's
I
why
don't
is
get
it not popular anymore?
Why is it not popular?
Why is it
Right.
not the top 10 in every single year as it should be because it's been that way for 60 years?
Yes.
Well-
Because also a lot of these people, and sorry for
No, please.
a lot of these people when they make the argument of like the good old days.
Yeah.
Okay, you're telling me that the good old days were the Nirvanas of the world.
Right.
Which, okay, the 90s, before the internet made it easy for
Right.
everyone to find out about all the other bands
Sure.
that got kind of left out during the Nirvana talks, right? Which, nothing against Nirvana.
No.
right? But a lot of great fucking bands came
lot of
up
great
in
bands.
that same time.
Yes.
And they got overlooked. Like
very much.
Tad.
Tad is-
Mudhoney
you know I'm
and all
always,
these other-
yes.
Yeah, right? So, like,
And by the way, the luck of all of that.
yeah.
Either, remember, part of Nirvana's presence is because that record sounds very different than the one that came before
Totally.
and the one that
Yes.
came after.
Yes.
It
Yes.
is Butch Vig put that pop sheen
Yep.
over it.
Yep.
It doesn't make it a bad record. I'm not shitting on Nirvana or Nevermind. It's just to say there's a reason why Bleach didn't sell that much
Right.
and In Utero didn't sell as many.
Right. Yeah.
So, those things play into why a band becomes popular. And let's be completely honest here. Smells Like Teen Spirit is a fucking great pop rock song. That's a poppy song.
It's
right?
a good, I would say, pop rock album.
Oh, okay, yeah.
that whole.
And I don't mean pop in pop music. What I mean is popular, which is
Popular,
what
yes.
pop really means.
Yes,
It's about
yes.
popular. That is a radio-friendly rock and roll album that you can play anywhere.
Because I think the pop that, kind of is not associated with the popular aspect
Right.
of it is the formulaic, like, this is the verse, chorus.
What used to be
and
called like bubblegum pop.
bubblegum. Yeah, like, ultimately what the Ramones were trying to, like, tap into.
Sure.
But they had the guys of these kind of Bowery boys,
Yeah.
like, we come from the streets, but we also look kind of like a gang.
Yeah.
So they were just trying to do the boy band thing with a filter of, we come from the streets. You recognize us. You've
Well,
seen us around.
And I like old rock and roll.
I like
but
old
I
rock
want to
and roll.
amplify it and
Yes,
go
yes,
faster.
yeah.
Like, I'm sorry, I do like Elvis. I like the old rock and roll, but I
Yes.
just want to put more juice into
More-
it, and that's what
more
they did.
gusto in it,
yeah,
yeah,
that's
right.
and again, a Green Day is another one that like that was a weird one. Is to realize, wait, Green Day wasn't on some of these lists because in the moment, didn't it feel like Green Day was everywhere?
Everywhere, yes,
That their
yeah.
political stances and everything was like you couldn't escape it.
I mean,
and
they
it still didn't make a top 10 of
They
the
get
billboards.
mocked for doing, I don't know if it was like a Broadway version
Oh,
or
yeah,
something
yeah.
like
Yeah,
of
they
one
did.
of their albums,
Yeah, yeah,
right?
yeah.
And traditionally, things like that get mocked.
Yes.
Because it's like, who do you think you fucking are?
Yes.
But look at it
Yeah.
contextually, and it's like, oh, this is a punk band from the Bay Area
Right.
that got to the point that everybody wants to be at. You want to have the bigger stage, bring your music to a bigger audience, right? And like, why are we making fun of them again? Because we don't like it.
And
right?
like I just read a thing where it was for all the shit that Green Day got, right?
Yeah.
That they're destroying punk. Punk has become pop.
Oh,
Blah blah
right,
blah blah, right?
right, yeah.
And then, well, that's all about your age and time too, because then I see an article where Mark Hoppus from Blink-182 is talking about when they went on tour and thinking like, why the hell is Green Day opening for us? They're our heroes.
Oh, yeah.
And you go, oh right. Not everybody did think they were shit and hated them and that they were ruining punk.
Yeah,
There was a group of kids growing up going, that's the only punk I know.
Yes,
And
totally,
I fucking
yeah.
love them, and I'm glad they're doing what they do. And man, now it may have introduced them to other punk and so on and so forth. They may have gone backwards, but it's just to say, like, again, these are those things, like, there's no control over these things.
Right.
Rock's not going anywhere. It will always be there. Whether it's in the top 10, whether it's in the Spotify's biggest plays, none of that should matter.
Right,
It's an
right.
interesting topic. It's weird to see after 60 years of dominance,
I
no
would
doubt.
say,
But
I would say have the conversation only to see where maybe your limits are.
well, also to see
Right.
where is so if it went away, what is taking its place? Let's see where's music going?
Yeah.
Where is rock going? You know what I mean? Like I said, it's not an uninteresting topic, but to be angry about it or to somehow lament
To be so
it in this,
definite
yeah.
about your like your opinion, basically.
Well-
like it's the objective fact is rock is not dead.
No,
like it's there.
It's there. It's
It's
just
there.
not going to
It's
be as
not in the
popular as it
forefront.
once it is.
It's not out and
No.
and as visible as it used to be,
No.
right? But it's there.
I mean-
now, do you want the rock star? Because even
Right.
those are there.
The rock
And
stars are
maybe-
there, but
Maybe
they're-
they look different.
They look
now,
very different now. Yes.
But everything that all the stories that attracted you to the whatever rock star persona,
Sure.
it's there.
They're all
right?
there.
You want the Motley Crue's
Right.
screwing chicks left and right? Well, P. Diddy is in court right now because he did just that, right? I mean,
Unfortunately, some that he probably shouldn't have. But yes,
yeah,
I know.
right.
No,
But again, it's
Yes.
the lifestyle of this rock star who
Yeah.
doesn't follow the traditional norms of society.
Absolutely.
Right. And now we're disgusted with P. Diddy, but we celebrated Motley Crue.
Yeah.
There's other stuff going there.
Yeah,
on
I know
there,
what, but I know what you
right?
mean. Yes.
But that's the rock star, right?
It is.
To say that Taylor Swift, who flies to the 7-Eleven, at the street corner of her block because she can, because she has the means,
Right.
Right. You're
She's
telling me
pulling
that's
up
not
to her shows in 15 diesel trucks that carry her stage
Yes,
equipment and everything
yes.
else. What's
Yeah.
more rock than that?
Right.
When Pink Floyd did it so they could build a wall, we all said that's rock and roll, baby.
Right.
Okay, she's I you know what I mean? Like, yes,
Like even a person that I don't
Mm-hmm.
like any of their musical output, but Machine Gun Kelly,
yeah.
MGK. All
Yeah,
of a
yeah.
sudden, this dude's playing pop punk.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, well, it can't be any good, right? But then I turn on one of the videos
Mm-hmm.
for him, and tons of people in the crowd.
Oh, yeah.
Now, I'm not gonna argue with that mass of people and say, well, this is not good music,
Right.
Because they're screaming.
Yeah.
They're having fun.
Yeah.
And who am I to come along and be like, well, that's not how it's done.
And
It's
by the
done
way,
this way,
once
right?
again, objective, subjective.
Yeah, exactly.
If we want to
Yes.
look at it and say, well, is it the top form of music? Is it, no, it's overly derivative. He's,
Sure.
yeah, that's fine. Are people enjoying it? Well, then that's all that really
That's
matters.
all
And by
that
the
matters.
way,
Yeah.
they may not enjoy it tomorrow.
Right, yeah.
They maybe just, maybe it's cotton candy to them. Mm-hmm. Music, I think that's the other part is like, this usually comes from people like us
Yeah,
who love music in a very deep way.
sure.
I hate to break it to everybody. Not everybody loves music in the same way.
In the same way, yeah. The
There's a lot of people who love music superficially.
The
It's
standards
a good
that
tune.
Aaron has are not the same standards that Nick has.
Not even
and
close.
vice versa.
And
you know?
yet we probably have far more in common than the people who are listening to Machine Gun Kelly.
Oh, yes,
and
of
it's
course.
just to say, some music for people is just cotton candy. It's delicious in the moment.
Yeah.
It disappears, and then the next piece of food goes in their mouth. They're not
Yep.
interested. It doesn't have to mean anything to
Right,
them.
right.
Well, what do you mean you like this song? Well, it's got a good beat.
Good beat. Yeah.
I've always said, look, the Macarena is not Beethoven's Fifth Symphony.
Right.
Nobody's going to argue that.
Yeah.
But the Macarena does exactly what the Macarena is supposed to do. It gets you out of your seat,
yes.
and you shake your little booty, and it gets stuck in your head like an earworm because that's what the song's supposed to do. Exactly.
Yeah.
It has achieved. I'm doing it right now, actually. It has achieved its goal.
Yeah, yeah.
It wasn't trying to be anything else.
Yep, that's true.
That's okay. That's what. So the fact that that's a popular song doesn't take away from music overall.
Not at all.
You
Not at
know?
all.
And look, classical music isn't what it once was. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah.
People are still performing it. Everybody has a Philharmonic in every fucking major city. It still gets played. And on top of which, we all know who Beethoven, Mozart, Chopin, on and on and on.
And even then,
these people have been long dead.
And what's funny is that the people, I have seen the argument or the question posed, is symphonic music dead? And it's like, no, because there exists this genre called neoclassical.
Right.
Where if you've watched any dramatic movie, any fans of John Williams,
Sure.
or I forget his first name, but his last name is Howard.
I think I know who you're talking. Yeah.
Like he's done a lot of beautiful theatrical music that back in the day, back in those time frames, would have been hosted at a music hall with an entire symphony in the front.
For sure.
Everyone's wearing powdered wigs and doing the polite clap, right? And 4 hours later, we hate everybody, go get drunk at a
Right.
bar, and go eat loaves of bread. right?
Absolutely.
But it's just like,
Buckles on our shoes.
exactly, right? Like, hey, this doesn't do anything. My toes are tight. But it's the same thing.
Yeah.
Like people complain, and then it's always there.
Yes.
It's always there. There's
Yes.
different versions of it. You might have to get a couple layers out of the way, but
Absolutely.
it's there. Like it's all
It's
there.
funny that you say that too about, especially with John Williams, a man who's mainly known for his composing of movie soundtracks.
Yeah.
I watched a documentary about him, and there is Steven Spielberg saying the idea that people are doing movie soundtracks and they don't use an orchestra. I don't know.
Yeah.
I think it's a lost art. It's like, well, okay, listen, I know Steve doesn't hate the people that are making that stuff, but great soundtracks. Hans Zimmer makes a lot of great
Yes,
soundtracks. One who recently passed, Johansson, right? I think
Johansson, yeah.
some of my favorites. I don't know that he's sitting in there with a 50-piece orchestra doing
Right.
it. A lot of it is electronic. A lot of it is synthesized. They're still amazing. They can still be moved.
Yeah, you still need to compose different movements
Yes.
and have the music take you somewhere, right?
Yes.
And I get it.
If anything kills it when it comes to movies, it will be movie studios because they see how much money they'll save.
100%.
Not
yes.
because they hate, you know what I mean?
Yes,
That's
yeah.
what will kill it.
Yeah.
It will be financially. By the way, the same thing that has killed music business, the same thing that has killed, if anything's killing the rock band,
It's the music business.
it's the music business
Yes.
because of how expensive it becomes.
Yes,
When I'm a solo artist, which by the way, the 2024 list of most streamed artists from Spotify,
Oh yeah.
not one of them, not a single one of them is a band.
Right. Yeah.
They're all solo artists.
Yeah,
Now, obviously, when they tour, I get it. There's probably a band backing them, but you understand what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So I don't think that's a coincidence either.
No, not at
As
all.
money
No.
is being taken out of the music business because of file sharing, because of a lot of things.
Yeah.
Funding a band to go on tour is far more expensive than funding one person to go on tour.
Yep.
And promoting their album, making
And
their album.
especially if they hire scab musicians.
Oh,
which
for sure.
I'm not
No, I
bad-mouthing,
know. Yes,
but
yes.
hey, if you get the opportunity to play guitar, but you didn't write that song, but you're gonna get paid out the fucking wazoo, and you can use that money for
There you
your
go.
own music.
Yes. Which
Then-
happens.
which happens,
It
right.
absolutely has happened.
Yeah.
Unfortunately,
So-
the only one I can think of, he went on to play in Five Finger Death Punch, but whatever.
Well, you know what?
Yeah, can't all be
Lightning
winners.
does not strike twice,
No.
my friend. Right?
But yes, so again, this just feels the discussion I enjoy, as we're doing it now.
Sure.
The lamenting, the whining, the crying from older people, it just feels like you're just old man yelling at a cloud. Stop
And
it.
you're being. And here's another thing. I think another pitfall
Please.
is that because in the now times,
Mm-hmm.
we get to complain and have an audience.
Oh,
So these
well,
older
yeah.
folks,
Yeah.
while they don't want to spend the time looking for something they might like,
Sure.
they'd rather just complain because they know somebody else is going to say, "You're right. I'm also old and I'm also out of touch."
And we know that rage gets way more clicks than happy.
Rage always will. If it bleeds, it leads.
The
right?
music business is doing fine, and I love it. You've got 2 clicks.
Yes.
You know what's wrong with the music business? Nobody makes good music
Right,
anymore.
right.
Now, you not only get the people who agree with you, now you get the people who hate you for saying what you said.
Yes.
We'll put it in the comments. They need to watch every single thing, jot it all down.
Honey,
So they can
come down.
Yeah,
I agree
right,
with this
exactly,
person. Yeah.
exactly. Quickly, I must yell at someone on the internet
Yeah.
who will never listen to me.
To the keyboards.
Yeah, and again, that is, we've all fallen for that, myself included.
Sure.
I'm I have found myself yelling at a screen many times
Yep.
because I disagree with a guy going, wait a minute, this person doesn't buy my music. This
Right.
person doesn't do anything with it. What the
Right.
fuck do I, it's his opinion. I think he's wrong. And I could argue why he's wrong if he and I were to talk, but he's got the platform. I don't. So
Right.
who gives a
Yeah,
shit?
yeah,
You know what I
yeah.
mean? And again, like I said, in the end, dead or not, the music business has changed. Music changes. Music is evolving.
Music, yes.
I don't know what to tell you if you don't like that because I love that about music.
Right.
I want my music to evolve. My musical tastes have evolved.
Mm-hmm.
The 16-year-old Aaron, if he looked at my collection now, would be kicking his ass. Like,
Yeah.
What is this? What is this crap you have?
Look
Like,
at this
dude,
fucking dork.
right,
Conjuring Dream.
right. Like, dude, trust me. Trust me.
Yes,
in 20
exactly.
years,
Oh.
I promise you, man.
Yeah.
I should hope so, right?
If there's one
Especially-
thing I could tell a younger Nick,
Oh.
it'd be believe me,
Yes.
what you listen to is
Yes.
only gonna get better and better.
If also stuff where I go, hey, don't trade that CD in just yet.
Yeah. Yes.
Keep
but
that.
also,
Keep that, because I promise you in 10 years you're going to return to it and go, what was I thinking?
all the stuff you originally like, you can still like it.
Oh, absolutely. Yes.
You can still like it, and you're gonna see
Yes.
a bunch of new heads.
Yes.
Like it as much,
Yes.
if not more than you
Yes.
did. Right.
You know, and it's just to say, it's always evolving. If you like art, well, I don't understand. You cannot like the way it evolves,
Sure.
but you should want it to evolve.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. Because stagnancy, it just breeds complacency. right?
Absolutely.
Like, if
well,
you
isn't
plateau-
this the other argument, right? They love the Nirvanas, they love the Pearl Jams, they love all the stuff that's coming out, but then they lament that, oh God, Silverchair and Puddle of Mud, all they are derivative versions of this
Yep,
fucking
yep,
thing.
totally.
Okay, so then it progresses. Now look, let's be honest too, especially in metal, sometimes it progresses in a way that even us, while a youth group loves it, we don't, and that's new metal.
Sure.
New metal is definitely one of the, like, I get it. A lot of
Or
people
gent,
didn't.
you know.
For sure. But although I think with that, at least you get like those sugars where enough people respect what they do.
Yeah, but
New
it's still,
metal
like,
really
I'll
is-
be honest, it's still like for me, it's just like maybe
Yeah,
not this
as an
one.
overall
Right.
genre, I'm not much into it. But Meshuggah gets at least some respect.
Sure.
New metal gets no respect whatsoever.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, Korn is about the only one that made it out of there.
Yeah.
And I mean, Deftones, but to me, they were never really truly new metal anyway. But it's like nobody's making new metal they're almost like the hair bands of the 80s, right? Those bands only exist as a throwback. Nobody's making new versions of that
Well,
necessarily.
That's what I was about to interrupt. There are occasionally threads that pop up on different groups where it's like younger kids are
Yes.
saying, "I just discovered
Yeah.
new metal.
Yeah.
I'm gonna write this type of music."
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And it's
Chat
like,
Pile has a little bit of
Chad
new metal
Pyle,
in
I
it.
mean, we played with a band out in Palmdale. The opening band was a new metal band.
Yes.
And I'm like, 2024?
Yeah.
This is what we're doing?
Because
All right,
those
fuck it.
kids pick up those records.
Yes.
They don't know any. It's kind of like, if you bear with me, when I saw the first of the new Star Wars, I was stationed in Kansas.
Yeah.
I didn't have the internet.
Right.
I walked out of the Phantom Menace and went, fucking A, great. I got to see a new Star Wars.
Yeah.
It wasn't until many years later that I was like, wait, we're supposed to hate Jar Jar Binks? I don't understand.
Yeah.
I wasn't around to hear all that crap, so it
Right.
never entered my mind.
Yes.
And I think there are kids, the same thing, that aren't lamenting new metal.
My-
Now, even some of the lament of new metal, let's be honest, are metalheads hearing things they did not like,
course.
i.e. hip-hop. I don't like hip-hop.
Yes.
It's in my metals. Keep it out.
Yep.
You know, and it's like really weird because you just go, wait, I thought we were trying to be like, hey man, we love
Open-minded
the open mind. It's like, nope. There's for a lot of people, you know,
Sure.
not for everybody, but it is like that thing where now, and I'm being 100. There are new metal albums I enjoy. I bought some at the time it came out. I found stuff that I really did like at that time. Most of it has gone to the wayside now, but there are still ones I return to. But that was a big one in metal, right?
My brother, he's into all the music he's into, and while we were growing up together, he's 5 years younger than I am.
Okay.
He got very big into new metal.
Right on.
One of the bands that I will to this day listen. I have two of their songs like saved on playlists because I listen to them and I hear great pop melodies.
I hear you.
But the music is played in a fucking way that just gets me.
Gotcha.
Right? If I like a good metal song, it's for these reasons, and this band in these two songs has that of what I like. The band is fucking POD.
I'm not surprised.
Fucking heavy as hell.
They are, and they
right?
write great melodies,
Great melodies.
and they get you on a chorus.
Yes, and that's exactly what it is.
I
right?
mean, I
On-
myself
on
have found
Southtown.
we are the
Yeah,
youth
yeah,
of
yeah.
dude. Absolutely.
Dude, so I could give two fucking shits about Christian music.
I hear you. No,
whatever,
no.
right?
I hear you.
But I listen to these songs and I'm like, yes,
Yeah.
fucking heaviness, right? Like,
Yeah.
give me that fucking heavy.
Yeah.
Right. But now somebody else is picking that up, and maybe they're not super Christian, but they're picking that up and being like, oh shit, this is heavy in a way I've not experienced heavy ever before.
Right? We all need that entrance band, right?
Yes,
That's the other
yes,
thing. None
yeah.
of us started with Deicide.
Right,
I know
exactly.
there's some guy right now listening maybe that's like, fuck
He's
you,
gonna
I
be
did.
like, "Oh, I
All
did. They were my
Maybe you
neighbors."
did.
Okay.
I'm not saying...
Anecdotal.
Chances are we all started around the same, especially if we're a certain age.
Yeah,
The Metallicas, the Slayers,
yep,
the Judas Priests, the Iron Maidens.
Yeah.
And then got to the Deicides and the black metal and so on and so forth. So again, you have to have some sort of entry band. Now, some people don't go any further than that. That's
course.
fine. Remembering that those of us who go deeper, we are the minority. We are not the majority of music listeners. You know. And again, I just that one came to my mind. It was just like, in our own little metal circle, here's a part where the genre evolved. But because remember, when Korn comes out with this guitar down-tuned in that way, that was fairly revolutionary. There weren't bands necessarily doing that. So that was different. And I will stand by their first album to every album they did after that is much different in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
You know? So it is to say, somewhat revolutionary. But I think there were other things that were hurting them because, one, metalheads can be a little, head in the sand sometimes.
Discriminatory.
It can be. And
because
hip hop.
that's what I said, like about the idea of what a rock star is anymore. It's the hip hop guys. It's the rappers.
Oh, absolutely. And those guys were looking like them too. Like that was the thing.
Yes,
I'm looking at my black metal dudes in Corpse Paint. I'm looking at my death metal dudes in fucking like spikes and shit. I'm looking at my thrashers in their fucking cut off shorts. What's these guys with the baggy pants and the dreads?
Yes. Yeah.
I don't get that. What's this shit? You know what I mean?
Yep.
And the weird part is half of them were like skater kids. This is, especially Deftones, Korn, both from California. When I saw them, I went, well, that's every kid that I know. That's how we all dress.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's again, there's so many factors that go into it. I just thought with new metal, though, like I said, that was one that's more specific to metal.
One
of a genre that is metal to a degree that there's no
That
more
within-
necessarily new, but at the same time, we all there was a large group that shunned the evolution of it.
Yes.
You know?
Well, it's honestly, and it's gonna sound weird that I say this. New metal became the disco,
Yeah.
right? Of like,
Okay.
well, that, as they would say, they think that objectively sucks.
Yes.
But it
Yes.
doesn't
No.
because there's a fan base.
Yes.
There are kids getting inspired from
Absolutely.
it. There are people who are inspired to make the music. You just don't get it.
Yes.
It's not for you.
And by the way, there is good stuff in it. Maybe that genre got stupider quicker than a lot of other genres.
I would say so.
I think so. I mean,
yeah.
there's not a huge gap between Korn and Limp Bizkit, so
Right.
it is like, that music really devolved.
And it
very
hit a wall
quickly.
pretty quickly, yeah.
It was like, wow, this is fairly inventive. Oh, we're done. Okay, we're done. Yeah, we're done. You know?
I mean, but we did get like, and maybe they're not technically new metal, but like Linkin Park.
Oh yeah,
one of the bigger
no, absolutely, they very
acts,
much.
right.
Yeah, Deftones, I think definitely come
Deftones,
out of
yeah.
that. There's, and again, there are other bands that maybe only had one or two albums. Some that I like. Look, Mudvayne, their first album, very progressive in a lot of ways. The bass playing on that, the drumming is very interesting. If you really, very intricate and cool. They sold out after that big time. They saw that's no way to make millions of dollars. And it's just like the makeup budget apparently was very high.
Yeah,
so
right, exactly.
I don't know. You know what I mean? So there's a lot of bands that did that. Machine Head. For all they're lamented, like they're a damn good band, and that first album is really, really good. But I get it. He had these dreads, and they're like yo yo's in there, and it's like, well, screw you, man. Those are some really fucking good songs.
Yep,
I mean, look at our boy Max going to Soulfly, or even Roots for that
Creating
matter.
groove metal,
Right.
It had Afro beats in there, Afro-Cuban beats, and the Brazilian
groove
beats.
metal.
Yeah.
When did groove become I'm sorry. I thought we all loved a good groove, but again,
That's what we say, but then when it's in our faces, it's like, well, it's
and
not.
again, different tastes for different people. I get it.
Of course.
But again, how much of that is, just simply getting to a point, and again, maybe you and I will hit that point at some point where we are not finding new music that appeals to us anymore. It's certainly very possible.
Of course.
I hope that's when I'm, if I'm lucky enough to be 95.
I'll be
and
9 toes in the ground
right,
at that point.
But, I like I said, interesting debate, interesting topic in general, but to get caught up in whether or not something is in the top 10 or whether it's as popular as it once was, is interesting to discuss, but it's nothing to get that caught up in.
Yeah,
because
because
ultimately it's about whatever you're listening to, whatever
it's
you
such a
like.
subjective thing, and to cast such an objective net over it, like
Right.
this is what's good. Well, you're not arguing about what's good.
No, this
you're
is-
arguing, and even then, you're arguing about what the the people who make the music charts think is good.
Well, yeah, it's
right?
like getting mad because of whoever won Best Picture.
Yes, exactly, right? Which, like, come on, man.
Like just because my favorite movie didn't win. By the way, I've not hated Dune 2 or 1 because they didn't win the Best Picture
right,
award.
that stopped nothing.
I mean,
love those
I
fucking
still
movies.
watch those movies and
Some
love
of the
them.
best movies.
Right.
Yeah, you know. So, but yeah, like you're arguing a not mainstream thing
Right.
with mainstream argument or talking points.
Yes.
Which now you're just fucking. You're yelling at a wall.
That's
You're
what
yelling at a wall. You want to be heard.
Right.
I get it. It's
a
fair
great way to
to
get
want to be
clicks.
heard, but come on, like, what are we doing? Like, we. I know there's a lot of these conversations, much like the separating the art from the artist, and this one that it's interesting to see where people fall.
For sure.
I knew Aaron and I felt strong about about what we've said so far. And I think anybody who listens to this now is going to be like, yeah, it makes sense because they have talked about something like this in the past where they've been very what's curious about their musical leanings. And so right off the bat, we're not going to look at a music genre and say that's the definitive end.
No.
Because it keeps going, right? Like we're pretty exploratory in our likes, and I knew we'd agree for the most part on this.
I'm
right?
I'm not surprised in any way. It is fun to discuss. It's fun to look at the history of it.
It is.
Look, as a person who primarily listens to rock, it was interesting to look back and go, wow, that's a damn good run.
Yeah.
Maybe bigger than any other run of music if you really think about it.
Right. Yeah, because and that also, the whole popularity of like rock, when you look at it internationally, like we're now casting American expectation on the rest of the world.
Right.
Which not fair, because
No.
if we visit our neighbors to the south, our little country known as Mexico, there was a very popular artist by the name of Juan Gabriel, my beloved Juanga, who every time he performed, maybe not so much towards his death, but when he was much younger, filled fucking stadiums.
Oh,
right.
I mean, again, I mentioned it in our last episode about like ABBA. Like,
ABBA.
You know what I mean?
Yes. Oh, yes.
They've conquered
yeah.
the world, and America still goes, we'll see. Shakira.
Yeah. Elvis never left the U.S.
Well,
and look at the impact.
Yes,
right?
I mean, eventually he does, but yeah, his music,
Right.
I mean, one thing America has been great at doing when it comes to the arts is exporting rock and roll.
Yes. Oh, yes.
We have definitely sent it around the world and have influenced many countries that have added it to their version of music and how they do it. That part, no doubt about it, because American music is weirdly. We put out a lot, and a lot of it is given a lot of love.
Yes.
But we, as America, are so spoiled in how much music we have.
We don't return that love.
Almost never.
Yeah.
Like, Shakira has to conquer America, and she does. Congratulations.
Sure.
Kylie Minogue is Madonna in Australia.
Yes.
She's nobody in America.
Right.
You know what I mean? That English kid that just put out the movie where he's a monkey or whatever.
Robbie Williams.
It's like, that guy sells out fucking stadiums in Europe 3 days in a row.
And he's a pop star.
Yeah.
Right. But
in America, his movie flopped because nobody knew who the fuck this guy is.
And not just that, but good thing you brought up Robbie Williams. In his latest song, he includes the work of one rock god by the name of Anthony Iommi.
Oh, okay.
So it's like, how is it dead if it's still being recognized?
And
again, it's just because it's not in the
that's,
forefront.
That's it.
Right?
They're lamenting. Their death is that I can't turn on the radio and constantly hear rock and roll. I've got to hear this other stuff, and I don't like it.
Yep.
That's really what the argument is, and that's a silly argument to have.
I think so.
And now, and I guess I would understand. By the way, now you know, for some of these people, now you know how your parents felt whenever time they turned on the fucking radio and they couldn't hear Glenn Miller or they couldn't hear the shit that they liked.
Yeah.
Every time I change the goddamn channel, it's your rock and roll all the goddamn
rock
time.
and roll. Yes.
Every time I put on, now it's like one of the things I always say. One of the ways I know I'm getting older is like now I watch Saturday Night Live, but I know who the host is, but I don't know who the musical guest is. When it used to be, I watched it for the musical guest and wasn't too sure who the guy was hosting. And it's like now you know how your parents felt.
Yeah,
they felt
totally.
the same way.
Yeah.
And it's just again, I don't know. To each their own. I feel bad. I feel bad because I think in the end you're losing out. I'm not.
I agree.
There's a lot of great music out there that you can keep exploring. By the way, there's no way you heard it all, so you can even go backwards. And start finding undiscovered shit that you didn't even know was out there.
I'm gonna use the known Satan of the world, Spotify here. So Spotify gets something like 12 million songs uploaded to it every year.
Okay.
Some weird figure like that.
Sure.
So with as many billions of songs there is on Spotify,
Right.
there are 20% of the music on there that hasn't been heard even once.
Oh, yeah.
So when you say rock is dead,
Right.
what you seem to imply, and maybe this isn't the point of that implication, but you've heard all this music and you've objectively said that's not rock and it's dead.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah.
Well, you're fucking lying.
Yeah.
Because there's no way you put any effort past your AC/DCs of the world, which nothing against that.
Yeah.
But you didn't look further and you stopped. And that was your point. Like, that's the limit of what
Right.
you reached.
Which is
That's
fine if that's what you want. And by
That's
the way,
fine.
AC/DC, as popular as they are, probably never cracked the top 10 of the Billboard.
Right,
Like,
right.
again, as popular as you think they are, or that they were dominant in your bubble. You
Yes.
know?
Not everybody's.
Not everybody's
and
an
that-
AC/DC fan.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but what do folks out there think? I know we've made a bunch of points here. Maybe you agree with some. Maybe you disagree with most of them. Let us know, because this is a conversation I know Aaron and I have had many times. We've had it with some of our associates and acquaintances.
Ironically, it's a conversation that will not die.
Yes, rock is dead,
Rock
but
is
this
dead,
conversation will forever
never
live.
die.
Yes, right.
Yes, it is a vampire that you can find no fucking silver
It's the
bullets.
zombie
for.
that-
Good
yeah.
God
I
Almighty!
want to shoot it in the head.
Jason
and-
hasn't risen as many times as this
Yeah.
argument has.
Hopefully, this conversation goes to space as well.
Yes.
But yeah, let us know what you guys think. This is a conversation we'd definitely love to hear from people out there. That being said, what are you watching?
So, as I've said before, continue with my Sopranos. I'm actually in the last season right now.
Nice.
So yeah,
That was quick.
Well, they are one of those ones. It's like I've said, it's very much comfort food. I'm not giving 100% of attention to all the time. I've seen enough. I've seen the episodes enough. But I can burn through probably 3 or 4 a night. Just you just go, and it's just like anything when it comes to those. Now that I don't have to sit through the theme song. I don't have to sit through the commercials. I don't have to wait a week.
that part,
Just
yeah.
skip. Go to that. Boom. Here we go. Start the episode. Still doing Last of Us, which I think one more episode
One
we
more
got of
episode,
that.
yep.
So far been fantastic. Crying at a zombie thing. Who'd have thought?
Yeah, which so the storyline isn't over.
Yeah,
and they've said they might extend it to a 4th season.
that's what I'm hearing. Right?
Yeah.
Okay. So again, I look forward to it. I think it's very well done. I think everybody in it it's just killer. The way they do it is just fantastic.
Yeah.
The rehearsal continues to.
That's almost done as well, right?
I believe yes. So
Like one
I think
more
there's
episode?
one more episode,
Yeah.
and which I am happy and lament only because I can't wait to see how this concludes. But and to know that then I think our next one will be Andor, so I can't wait to get to that. But at the same time, I could watch this guy do that shit all day long. He's just so
Here's
amazing.
another hot take, not that
Please,
we haven't been
please.
full of these already. Somebody on the internet said Andor season 1 and season 2 and Rogue One is the best Star Wars trilogy. And I could not find anything wrong with that.
I am much more forgiving of Star Wars than I think a lot of people are, and but that's just me. Again, for all of its flaws, I still love. I don't think I've seen one thing that I can say I absolutely hated. There are ones that are definitely better than others.
Sure.
Rogue One
Yes,
for
yes.
sure is top
Yeah.
tier. But very much looking forward to seeing that.
Yeah.
Let's see, movie wise. We did see one just last night called The Damned, horror movie.
I love the band.
Yeah, no, yeah. It's one of those ones you definitely got to put movie after if you want to look it up. Otherwise, you're like, I didn't recognize any of these goth kids.
Yeah.
But really good. Small little indie thing. It's probably 20s, 30. I don't know where they're all English.
Okay.
But they're on like a little fishing island. It's dead of winter, and they witness a sailboat out in the distance of the ocean, and it's sinking. And they're like, "Do we send you guys out to go try to rescue them? It's probably not safe." They feel like they need to. They end up having to. The people are on this little island. They see and they freak out and they jump into the water trying to get into the boat, and they're going to drown everybody if they end up having to kill a guy and then like get away.
About to just kill a man.
Yeah. Well, now they think that these people are haunting them.
Oh shit! That's
Yeah,
cool.
it's really, really cool and really quick too. It does a lot of the idea of like isolation. It does a lot of the idea of like, is that happening in my mind? Is that happening for real?
Yeah.
Plays on a lot of that, and it was good. It was a fun watch.
Nice. That's
I'm trying to think what else. Oh, I just started, haven't finished yet, but it is absolutely fantastic. I guess I don't know who he reaches, but certainly of our age. The Pee Wee Herman documentary just went up on HBO. I finished the first episode. I have yet
two
to
episodes,
two
right?
episodes.
Yeah.
Each one is about an hour and a half.
Okay.
Unbelievably good.
Yeah.
So good. And so many, like, the show I remember being very popular as a kid. I do remember watching it. It was the movie, though. The first one, especially.
Yeah.
I swear to God, I think every daycare I ever went to in summer was just like they were issued it, you know. and we watched the hell out of that movie.
Well, it's funny too because that movie I think created like social stereotypes that somehow or another people we knew fell into them, and so because Pee Wee knew how to deal with them, we also knew how to deal with them.
Yeah, well,
you know, and it was like, all right, well. That's the big spoiled brat Francis.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna be his fucking friend, right?
Well, it's so weird to go back and watch it too, because it is still very weird, despite how old it is. Like
Yeah.
it's still, there's this weird feeling to it, you know. And
There's
it's just
this everlasting youth, which ultimately is what Pee Wee is about.
absolutely, yes. There's such a childlike, and the other thing I just love is it's the stuff we didn't understand as a kid that we look
Yeah.
back now and realize how subversive.
Oh,
Pee Wee
yes,
really was.
yes,
The
yeah.
things that he and his writers were putting in these things.
And the shows, yeah.
I mean, it's just now you go back and watch it as an adult, you go, oh, Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
how did
You're
we
like,
miss-"
oh, shit,
You
this
know?
is innuendo now.
Yeah,
you
oh,
know?
a lot of innuendo, you know, and it's just like, yeah, I you know, it's just cool to watch. I'm very much looking forward to the second one, and just a very interesting. So, as people I'm sure know, he's dead now.
Yes,
When this documentary was done, I believe they
was
put it
sick.
at the beginning. It's like he died like 6 weeks after.
Yeah, yeah.
You know. So it's very interesting which is something I did not know. Maybe I didn't, just had forgot. I guess this entire time he had been battling cancer.
Yes,
So
yeah.
it got the better
He never
of him.
told anybody,
Never told
yeah.
anybody about it. Yeah. So it's very interesting to know that as you're watching him being interviewed. He's
Yeah.
also, just like I said, just a very interesting kind of thing where, you know, the stuff he struggles with, you know, in many ways he was living a double life in two different ways.
Yeah.
Being a gay man who knew that being gay at that time would have hurt his career, but also being Pee Wee and not being recognized as Paul Rubens.
Right,
Who's the
right.
genius behind Pee Wee, but not getting any of the credit for
Because he
being.
wanted to be known kind of for both and have both be as big as the
Well,
other.
he saw
right?
what it comes down to is he sees Pee Wee as the vehicle that will get him to what he wants to do.
Right, yeah.
But as he says, Pee Wee Herman got a star on the Walk of Fame.
Yeah.
I didn't
Paul
get a
Rubens
wall.
didn't. Yeah.
You know, I wrote Pee Wee's Big Adventure, but all anyone could talk about was Tim Burton's direction
Yep.
and my acting.
Yeah, yeah.
But I helped write it with Phil Hartman and another guy. Well, why am I not getting, you know, and it's like this double-edged sword, which is also counterbalanced with the double-edged sword of his sexuality.
Yes.
Which is very interesting in general. And
Which, you know, I think looking back, especially now, again, with
Sure.
hindsight being what it
well,
is,
absolutely.
he was wronged. You know, I think
Oh,
ultimately
I
for-
definitely think he doesn't get the credit he probably deserves in a lot
but
of ways.
Even in that sting operation that, you know,
Oh,
got
yeah.
people to vilify him for
Yeah.
doing the thing that people go to these establishments for anyway, right?
Yes.
Like he wasn't doing anything wrong, and because at that time I know there was this vilification of homosexuality
For sure.
right? And then whether it hurt him or not, when you look at his mugshot, he's a little intimidating looking.
Well,
right?
and yeah, there's an interesting scene in the first one where I can't remember who Cherry. I think it's the woman who plays Cherry.
Oh, okay. Yeah, yeah.
And she's introduced to this person, and it's Paul Rubens.
Yeah.
And she's like, he's got a goatee. Oh, no. I believe it was the black lady who plays the mailman. I think that's who it was. She's like, they bring in this guy, and like, oh, this is Paul Rubens. He's got a goatee, and he's got some hair, and, you know, and she's just like, oh, he looks like some burnout hippie. I
Yes,
don't know.
yeah.
Not putting together, like, this is Pee Wee Herman.
Yep.
You know, the Pee Wee is a character in every sense of the word, but even he admits, I started to live that character sometimes. It made it hard to separate those
Yeah,
things,
yeah,
you know?
yeah.
So again, very, very just deep.
That's cool.
The ending of the first episode essentially takes you to Big Top Pee Wee, or I believe, I take that back. I think it's right before Pee Wee's Big Adventure.
Okay.
and then they move on from there.
That's cool.
Yeah, it seems to be kind of warts and all, and just a guy that on surface is already kind of cool and amazing and interesting. But when you get a little deeper, like you realize, wow, there's really way more to this guy than the Pee Wee Herman. And especially when we're growing up, like I don't know who Pee Wee. There's no way. There's no internet. I know that's that has become a stupid thing to say in general. But there's no way to look this guy up, especially when I'm 12 years old. How do I know how to look? I'm not reading People magazine to figure out who's the real Pee Wee. You know what I mean? Yeah. So yeah, it's just really cool to look in and just realize what an impact he did have on our lives in general, and that Pee Wee Herman show had on people's lives is pretty amazing. And I'm always wowed when people can leave their stamp in that way.
Yeah.
But I'm always interested in people, so just kind of hearing that conversation. Other than that, I think that's it. Yeah, I think that's all. How about yourself? Anything?
Bunch of movies.
Okay.
So I sat down and finally took in The Boy and the Heron, which is a Studio Ghibli movie.
Oh yes. Okay.
So Hayao Miyazaki is, I'm sure a lot of people who are familiar with his work, they'll agree that he is a fucking genius.
Well, my daughter's a huge fan of that stuff.
When it comes to storytelling, this dude just creates one of the most beautifully tragic worlds ever.
Right on.
And this is maybe one of his more personal efforts.
Right on.
Because it's kind of based on him growing up in like World War II Japan, the loss of his mother.
Okay.
But it's told in fantastical ways where like the birds are people and there are parakeets that eat humans. It's just fucking amazing. But it's all under the umbrella of like the looming threat of World War II.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah, because his father was like an industry person who used to build warplanes.
Okay.
And some of his older movies have dealt with the fascination of these planes created just for war.
Okay. Interesting.
But yeah, I took that in and it was great.
Right on.
The kind of translation version that is available right now. It was great. And then I listened to the original audio, but it had another track giving me the actual dialogue.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so it was like, this is perfect. Like, this is such a good story.
Right on.
I took that in. I watched a movie with Amy called Sisters.
Okay.
Amy Poehler.
Oh, yes.
I hadn't seen that movie.
Oh, good one.
It's fucking hilarious.
Yeah.
It's funny as hell. It's all these corny, cheesy jokes from like the mid-'90s, which still land because I am of that time frame. So,
One of those movies I remember when it came out, too, was like, oh, can women sell comedy?
Yes, right. Are women actually funny?
Yeah, right.
So, yeah.
Will men watch women who are funny?
yes, right. So
yeah,
we watched that. That was great. For some reason, I started watching George Romero movies this past week. So I watched Night of the Living Dead, my all-time favorite horror movie.
Right on.
Dawn of the Dead from 60s, and then Day of the Dead.
Okay.
Fucking love all those movies.
Right on.
Like they're so gloomy, so grimy, so punk. You know, like I always consider that like fucking super punk. But and then I got into perhaps one of my absolute favorite zombie movies, which is Return of the Living Dead.
Right on.
I think I might have mentioned this before on this podcast. Just the marriage of punk and zombies. You had me at hello.
Right on.
Right. If you haven't seen it, it's these two kind of workers at a factory, and there is a leak of gas. 425 trioxin, something like that.
Okay.
That the military creates.
Okay.
It rains. The gas gets soaked up into the atmosphere and rains on the cemetery. Fun ensues. Right?
All right.
Yeah. So if you've seen it, you know that the soundtrack is fucking awesome. A bunch of old punk bands, a couple of death rock bands, including 45 Grave, which they made Party Time, like the theme song of the movie.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So it's a fucking cool movie. Zombies in general, that's my shit right there.
It's your bread and butter.
Yeah. So that's kind of what I watched.
Right on.
And you listening to anything?
Yeah, actually, I listened to quite a bit. Some new stuff, actually, too. One that came out this week, a Blood Monolith.
Yeah. Oh.
Yeah.
I'm glad you're saying this is on my list as well.
No, yeah, I'm not surprised.
The one you showed me.
Yeah,
yes.
I mean, dude, this shit just fucking blew my mind, man.
Yes.
I was just like, so I think the biggest, I think the biggest person in it that people might know, I believe he's the singer, also the guitar player. He's in Nails right now.
Oh, no shit.
Yeah, he's the guitar player for Nails. So I had seen, it was one of those, new band coming out, blah, 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 blah. So I checked out one single from him, and I was already hooked. And I was like, when this album comes out, I came out Profound Lore. I believe it came out just last week or the week before. I'm trying to find the title. I'm so bad with names and everything else. But, dude, it's
something fire, right?
I think so. And it's just so fucking just like
it's
in your face, aggressive, buzzy guitar,
Yes.
like Black and Death kind of thing that is just like, God
like
damn,
ugly,
dude.
like I kind of likened it to like sludgy Black and Death.
Yeah.
you know?
Oh, I think it
And
has
then the
all of
fucking
that in it.
Drums
That's
are just in your face, aggressive,
the calling of fire.
calling a fire.
Yeah, I mean, it has all of that in it. It's so fucking
Yeah,
good.
so good.
And it's just like, they use little movie quotes in it, so that always is a hook for me. I
dude,
love that
when
shit.
When you pitched it to me,
Yeah.
it was like, you're gonna like this.
Yeah,
and then the song was Prayers to Crom.
Yeah,
And I was like, yeah, you're right. I do.
Yeah, I was just like, yeah, I got to send this one to Nick because this is fucking great.
Yeah.
The other one that I sent you also that it was a band called Hedonist.
Yes,
Southern
yes.
Lord is, I guess, going to put out their new record. They released a single, but I didn't listen to that. I found their EP. They have it on Spotify also, but you can, their Bandcamp, anywhere else. Fucking great. Like just good old H1, what is it? The
HM2?
HM2,
Yeah.
fucking, early Entomb style. Just god damn, dude. It just so good. Those are the two of the newer ones that I found. Speaking of Entombed, went into a bit of a Entombed kind of thing. I was listening to pretty much. I've now listened to all their albums. Did some good, some good ones. The one that has the dog on it. That one kind of. Yeah, I felt like, boy, if you hated Wolverine Blues, you guys are really gonna be pissed.
Yeah.
But still some fantastic other ones. That there's just a great band, and I think as much as I love Left Hand Path, I think some of their latter stuff I like even better. I love that Death and Roll, man. The way they do it, I
definitely enjoy a lot of the later stuff.
Yeah, man.
The influence the Death and Roll stuff had on like a bunch of other bands.
Sure. Oh, yes.
There's I'm pretty sure people out there know Repulsion, right? So Repulsion and a couple of the actual Entombed guys made a side band at one point called Death Breath.
Oh, right.
So,
yes, I know the name.
When you listen to that Stinking Up the Night release that they put out, on the cover they look like zombies from like a super old movie.
Oh, okay.
But that whole release is just fucking Death and Roll worship.
I gotcha.
And the singer of Repulsion, Scott Carlson, not to be confused with another Scott Carlson that we know out there, he does the best fucking LG Petrov imitation, which is the vocalist. So like, he sounds fucking great. It's great Death and Roll. It's heavy. It's metal when you need that metal, but it's got enough of the punk sensibility to like all right, here's the rock and roll type shit.
Right on.
Yeah, it's so good. Death Breath. Yeah.
Right on. Okay.
Yeah, Entombed fucking rule. I love Entombed.
I will. Entombed. I've definitely been getting more and more into them. A rediscovery of Wolverine Blues, and it just like I could not stop listening to that. And I thought, okay, I got to keep going a little deeper. I used to have the one has the Rebel Angels on it.
Oh yes, yeah.
I had that, and I think it's just one of those ones where it just wasn't what I was into at the time. And
Something like Morning Star.
Yes. I go look. I listened to it again, and I'm like, what was I thinking? I should have kept this one.
That's a good one. Yeah.
I think it's like they kind of lost it with that one with the dog, and then we realized, okay, let's go back to that Death and Roll shit. And it's like, yeah. Then we found it again. I went down a big Dwight Yoakam rabbit hole. Very much a fan of his. I like that style of country in general, but I very much like him. Really great albums, and just went down there. Another one of those ones where you're like listening to like a playlist, and a couple songs will come up from that artist, and you realize, God, I haven't really sat down and listened to that artist in a long time.
Yeah.
Hip hop guy named Hooks Arthur, jazzy kind of. I would say, like non-linear kind of beats and stuff like that. Even the songs, really, really dig him. I've probably found him on Bandcamp as a suggestion of, whatever. And I've just been hooked on his stuff ever since. Just really cool, just lyricism. But I love just like the jazziness of the beats, but they're also sometimes a little off kilter. It's just, so I was going down deep on that. But yeah, trying to think if there was anything else. A lot of the usuals though too. Actually right now I just threw in Creedence Clearwater CD in the car that has all. I
Can't
put
go
all
wrong
their
with that
albums.
one. Yeah.
I just I'm listening to them on the way over here, thinking
Yeah.
to myself, my God, this band is so fucking great. And I just
Son of a bitch, I'm in.
well, I don't know. It's just one of those bands where I just go like I'm at the point now where I don't even want to hear the popular songs anymore. You know, I want to hear I want to hear all the songs that never get played on the radio. It's just like because they're just as good, if not better, than some of the ones. You know, but yeah. Other than that, you know, a lot of the usuals throughout the day. You know, a little Slayer here, a little Tool there, that kind of thing.
Cool.
How about yourself?
So Blood Monolith is also on my list. Very high up on my list for this past.
I
couple
knew
of
you'd love
weeks.
them when I
'cause
heard
they're
it.
so fucking good. I did listen to a band that my band recently played with a little bit more.
Oh yes,
Elder Bilu.
Same. I would. Sorry, I just
No.
I was they blew me away. I had not even bothered to give them a listen.
Yeah,
Before we went to the show, and within like half a song, I was like, "Fuck! I have got maybe regret not bringing any money, so I could have bought the CDs while I was there." Because I streamed one of their albums. I could not get enough
Same.
of it.
Yeah.
Amazing.
I was only kind of like tangentially aware of their music, and I had listened to a couple songs already. But from their set that they played, I was like, "Oh, I definitely got to spend more time with this."
Yes.
You know. So after that show, I went and listened to the new the latest album.
Yeah, same.
And then a couple earlier ones.
Yeah.
And I'm like, fuck, man, I am such an idiot for
Like a desert rock Kylesa kind of thing going
yeah,
on.
like
Dude.
a tad bit spacier
Yeah,
Kylesa.
yeah. It's a way more
right?
psychedelic desert rock kind of. Yes.
Yeah.
That doesn't have the punky edge to it, but
Right.
God damn, they were really good, man.
Super
and
good.
And now the guitar player, one of them, is in.
He's in a band called Gorok from
yes.
Boise, Idaho.
That's
They're
it.
both from Boise.
Yes. Fantastic band.
Yeah, fucking heavy as shit.
Yes.
And, you know, there's a gentleman by the name of Chad in that band
Right.
who's a fucking stand-up person. Like, one of the best people I've ever met.
Right on.
But, yeah, fucking Elder Bilu was fucking great.
They're really good.
I did listen to a band called Colt's Blood
Okay.
as well. Heavy stuff. Heavy, like, fucking nasty shit as well. But then this band that actually got recommended to me by a friend's daughter. About, you know, she's like, I know you like indie stuff and you garagey type stuff. So this band is from Moreno Valley,
Okay.
and we both know a band from out there, Trapped Within Burning Machinery. Great band.
Yeah.
But this other band is a indie garage outfit called Archer O,
Oh, okay.
and their music is fucking great.
All right.
Super, like, you will get shades of the Strokes and Interpol and
Okay.
all that type of stuff, right? All
All
that
right.
modern kind of indie garage shit, proto modern and stuff like that. But Archer O is packaged into a nice, fucking easy to digest, fucking, you know, product.
All right.
Where the songs are great, the musicianship is great, and not that they're local here, but they're local
Yeah,
to
yeah,
Southern
yeah.
California.
Right.
Music is fucking fantastic.
Right on.
Archer O.
Archer
Yeah,
O. Okay.
yeah. And apparently they're playing pretty soon at the Fox Theater in Pomona.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I'm kind of contemplating.
Wow,
whether
Fox,
I
that's
wanna go see-
damn.
Yeah, that's a big place, right?
Yeah.
And like my friend's daughter was telling me that like they had gone to see them at backyards, became friends with them, and then a couple years later they're playing
shit.
headlining at the Fox Theater.
Wow,
Yeah.
okay.
So
Damn.
I love hearing stories like that.
Yeah,
like,
good for
just
them.
People who fucking, you know, who get a chance
Sure.
to play those stages.
And Fox Theater, nothing to
Nothing
stick at, man.
Yeah, nothing
Good
to
guy.
wag your Archer about. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so like Archer O is the bigger one that
Right
I was
on.
like, fuck yeah. And because I think I might have mentioned this at the last episode, I did purchase a reissue of Sleep's The Sciences.
Oh, okay.
And I love that album.
Right on.
It's so fucking good. And the album is as heavy as the music is. You know, it's 180 grams.
Right on.
And it was put out through Third Man Records, which is Jack White's label. Fucking, I'm glad he likes Sleep.
Yeah.
Because, because then we get these records. And
Right on. Yeah, my son's a big fan of them. As you know, I'm not a huge Sleep guy.
Yeah.
I've always felt like the best thing about Sleep was when they broke up, because then I got home and I got high on fire.
Yeah,
so I've always appreciated that.
Yeah, and I like both of the
Yeah,
other
no,
bands,
I
obviously,
know.
right?
Yeah, but
Yeah, Sleep is one of those bands that when I first heard, I was like, oh, here's where the stoner shit does not get annoying to
I
me.
feel you.
You
No,
know,
no.
and to this day it hasn't.
They're all
Yeah,
great
that's
musicians, to say the least. So.
Pretty much it. So
Right on.
that's a good roundup of where we've been at.
Mm-hmm.
As always, have you got any recommendations or anything you want to suggest, let us know.
Right on.
Well, we'll catch you next time.
All right.
Hey, folks. Thank you so much for checking out the rehearsal room. We super appreciate you spending time with us. If you have any questions, comments, or want to yell at us for any of the takes we've expressed in any of these episodes, you can contact us by emailing us at therehearsalroompod@gmail.com. All one word, therehearsalroompod@gmail.com. We're also on Instagram, Facebook, and now on Blue Sky. Also, if you have any recommendations for any movies or any bands you might want us to check out and give a listen to, feel free to send those in. We always accept submissions. Or if you have any shows coming up that you feel we might be interested in checking out, let us know and we'll give you guys a shout out. But thank you for checking us out, and we'll catch you next time.